Josh was missing a lot of his math problems, and it puzzled me because he seemed to understand it and he could explain it, but he would get the wrong answer. I figured out this was not a problem with the curriculum, this was operator error. He was not lining his numbers up, and if you're one column off when you're adding, you're going to come up with the wrong answer. I turned notebook paper sideways, and it said write one number between each of the lines. So the spacing was better, and he had a guide to use. So any math curriculum you're using, you could do this. You can use the wide rule for younger kids, the college rule for older kids, but all of a sudden his accuracy went up, and it wasn't because I'd figured out a better way to teach it or suddenly he was understanding better. That's all it was, lining up the numbers. When your kids do standardized testing, if they do that, you can take scratch paper to work out math problems, send some line paper too, and teach them the turn sideways trick before they go. It can make a difference. You could also use graph paper and put one number in each spot. If you have a child who struggles with writing, and a lot of our kids get bogged down with the handwriting, you could use graph paper, and it comes in all different sizes, to put one letter in each spot so that their spacing is better, and then skip a square or two for the end of the sentence. So it's not one big run-on, hard to read with no spacing kind of work that they do. So you see an example here of the bigger squares. I also use the math charts, and you can fill in the chart or have your child fill in the chart and then keep that around to refer to. Yes, we want our kids to memorize the math facts. For some kids that can take a long time. So if you're trying to teach a new concept and they have to go back and count on their fingers or something, you're really working on two things at once, and it's going to be harder for them. So some of the time you should spend working on memorizing the math facts if they can. But some of the time, have the math facts available to them for a quick referral. And you can have, this is an example of one that's already filled out, a quick check. And if they use it often enough, they may start to use that to add to their memorization. Handwriting can be difficult. You want to make sure your child is holding the pencil properly. And if you have a handwriting curriculum, they usually tell you what that looks like. I found with Becky that she needed the Stetro pencil grip, which is a hard piece of plastic that's molded, and there's a certain spot where the thumb goes and a certain spot where the other fingers go on the tip of the pencil. So it's not really comfortable to hold it any way other than what fits into that Stetro pencil grip. But I also found even when I got her fingertips in the right spot, the pencil was still sticking straight up and wasn't resting in the web of her hand like it should. So I found these little stamps, and I put one on the end, and it added just enough weight to tip the pencil back into the right position. So it was fun, it was inexpensive, it was easy, and her handwriting got better. Now my older two did not like the Stetro grips, so I made a deal with them. As soon as I catch you coloring or writing with a pencil that doesn't have a grip on it and you're holding it properly, you're showing me that it's now a habit and you don't need it anymore. And then if I catch you holding it incorrectly, you're showing me that your hand doesn't have that down yet, it's not memorized. So if your kids are resistant, you can say it's temporary till you come along. The spelling ace, for kids who are struggling with spelling, this costs about $20. You can get it at all kinds of stores, Walmart, Target, office supply stores. It's about the size of a calculator and runs on batteries. You enter the word the way that you think it's spelled. So if a child is spelling coffee, K-O-F-F-Y, and they push enter, it gives you possibilities. What I found was Josh could recognize the correct spelling, but often couldn't come up with it. And it was showing up in his writing assignments because I gave him the underlining option. If you come to a word and you're not sure how to spell it, go ahead and underline it and keep going so you're not stuck there. And then we would go back and correct the underlined words. Josh, being a bright boy, started using small words he knew how to spell. Because once he got to a certain point, his words weren't showing up in the children's dictionary anymore, which meant the Webster's dictionary, teeny tiny print, very thin pages, and he's looking up a word he doesn't know how to spell in the first place. The spelling ace was a great option because Josh already knew what the word meant. He knew what part of speech it was, he just didn't know how to spell it. So the spelling ace also, you can enter spelling words in there to practice, and it'll play hangman games and things like that. So a nice option, very portable, the kids can keep it right with them. Sometimes you need to just change the way that you're delivering the instructions. Your big picture learners will especially love this if you mix it up a little bit because they like the variety. They like the change of pace if you do something different, little surprises now and then from you as a teacher. Keep them guessing, keep them attending. You can use something like Post-it tape. And when you give them the word, you have a few key points already highlighted for them. A caution about Post-it tape, you want to make sure it's removable. Some color tape is not, which I found out the hard way with the library book, which I now own. It's filled with my chosen vocabulary words covered with tape, but nice reusable. For older students, you can give this to them and they can use that as a highlighting option. You can let them move around. Becky does math facts to the You Can Do tape, songs, exercise movements. And allow different ways to respond. You know, your text curriculum might call for answer the questions at the end of the chapter. Keep in mind your books are written for a classroom, typically, and that's the best way for a whole group to make something manageable enough to grade. But if you're just having a handful of students or one or two students, you can mix it up. So let them answer orally sometimes. The goal is that they've learned the material, right? Yes, keep samples of their writing, but especially if you have a struggling writer, every subject area does not have to include a lot of writing. You know, let them answer, and if they're answering and you can ask for clarification, they're showing you that they understand. They're learning the material. That's the goal. This was something I did when I studied Romeo and Juliet with Becky for Shakespeare. Becky's a very creative girl, does not like to be limited in her options, and I wanted to assess her in a standard way, you know, the quiz, and I gave her a discussion question to write an essay to, but I also did this. I went through my Sunday newspaper, cut out parts of advertisements, and I put the picture and the quote with the act and the scene, and I presented that to her, and she had to tell me the context of the quote. So the first one here, you see Neosporin and Band-Aids, and the quote is, I, a scratch, Mary, 'tis enough. Where is my page? Go, villain, fetch a surgeon, by Mercutio. And I said, what part of the play did that happen? What was going on at that point? And she loved this. Let me show you a couple more. It was time consuming for me. I'm gonna laminate it so I have it forever though. Here's a picture with hands cupped together, holding a cookie with a Hershey kiss and another cookie with a Hershey hug. And Juliet's quoted, good pilgrim, you do wrong your hand too much, which mannerly devotion shows in this, for saints have hands that pilgrims' hands do touch, and palm to palm is holy Palmer's kiss. I thought this was a great picture for that. So what was happening in that part of the play, Becky? Then you have the hamburger helper glove there, and it says one happy family at the top, and Capulet saying, oh, Brother Montague, give me the hand. So it can be fun, and this is Becky's personal favorite. It has the yogurt calcium thing, strong bones, and the quote is Juliet, and in this rage, with some great kinsman's bone, as with a club, dash out my desperate brains. So I asked her, so what was happening there? And this was intriguing to her. This made it memorable. You know, sometimes just mixing it up and having a bit of novelty can help. And sometimes your learning is incidental. Like years ago when we were at this conference, we were walking back to our hotel and a flock of birds went overhead and my daughter Beth said, I hope none of those birds poop on me. The next instant, a bird pooped on Josh's hat. He'll never forget it. We get here, oh, this is where I got pooped on by a bird. You know?